This is Extra Paycheck Podcast, episode number 88.
You're listening to Extra Paycheck Podcast, where you will learn how to build and grow your own successful online business. Now, here's your host, Alex Soul.
Welcome to yet another episode of the Extra Paycheck Podcast. This is episode number 88. And in today's episode, we will be talking about 10 biggest mistakes that beginner online marketers and small businesses that go online tend to make. And this is what you should do to prevent making those mistakes. So let's get right into it. The very first mistake that a lot of online beginner entrepreneurs make is they hope to make quick buck. They are hoping for an overnight success. And this is a really wrong mentality to go with it. The thing is that over the years, there have been a lot of scams and a lot of really big scams and programs that kind of promise overnight success, that promise millions overnight, the promise that you will make a whole bunch of money with 3 simple clicks without really doing anything. Just set up this website in a minute and the money will start rolling in. And this is really far from the truth. Starting an online business is just like starting any business, offline business. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of dedication. And it should be almost an obsession for you to make it work and to work really hard at it, because the money will not come overnight. I can promise you that. I've been doing it for 9 years, and I know that it takes hard work to make things come your way and to make the income that you're hoping to make. If you look at many applications like Angry Birds, which people think was an overnight success, the truth is that the company made over 50 games and they all failed. It took them many years and many failed games to finally crack the code in a way by creating Angry Birds, which became an overnight success. There's a quote, and unfortunately I forget who the quote was by, and I'm paraphrasing here, but the quote says something like, an overnight success takes 20 years to build. And 20 years might be an exaggeration, but every overnight success you look at wasn't really an overnight. Usually it's years and years of effort went into that success. So let's move on to the second tip here, and I'd like to talk about learning what you're about to do. There are a lot of great platforms, a lot of great resources, a lot of places where you could learn how to start an online business. The problem for a lot of people is that they get too absorbed in that learning curve and they never actually start doing anything. And I know that because when I started in 2007, I was completely overwhelmed with information and I wanted to learn everything I could learn. However, big difference that why this worked for me and it doesn't work for many others is because I didn't learn everything at once. So I went through this course and I learn how to set up a WordPress site. As soon as I learned that, the very basics of setting up a WordPress site, I went ahead and set up that website. The next step, I learned that I need to create content and I started writing content. And it was really bad content, but I was writing it right away. I was starting to practice that content creation and so on. So I was learning, applying. And I see far too many people who just learn and then they move on to the next step of learning and the next step of learning, and they never actually apply that knowledge into real life, into their business. And guess what? You will not see any results from learning. You could learn for 20, 30, 40 years, but if you don't apply that knowledge, you won't see any results. Nothing will come out of it. Nothing will happen. So taking action is far more important than just learning. That being said, learning is important. You should know what you're doing, or you should at least try to learn what you're doing or what you're about to do step by step. But don't try to learn everything there is to know about a subject before actually taking action. Small steps, take them every single day. Step number 3 is not being consistent. That's also a huge mistake, and a lot of people fall for that trap. So you set up your website, you start putting out content for a week or two, and then you stop for a month, for 2 months. And then you remember, oh yeah, I wanted to make this online business, so let me write another blog post. that's the wrong way to go about it. You have to get into the groove of working. You have to get a feel for it, and you have to put out that work consistently. And content is just one of the examples. It doesn't necessarily need to be content, but you have to do something that pushes your business forward every single day. Do something every single day, but do it consistently. Don't give yourself breaks that last for a day at first, and then for a week, and then for a month. Be consistent, and this is when you will start seeing the growth in your online business and offline business as well. Just be consistent. Number 4 is kind of similar to number 2. I've seen that a lot as well, and people look for perfection. Many of us are perfectionists by nature, and that's not really a bad thing in some cases, but when you're starting a business, it's a pretty bad thing, because we could spend months or even years trying to find the perfect web design, trying to find a perfect niche, trying to craft a perfect offer, and just like number 2, not taking action doesn't take you anywhere. The thing about perfection is that once you set up your website, once you set up whatever business you're trying to set up, you can perfect it later, but you have to put it out there. You need to start that business first, and then you make it better. There was another quote, once again, I forget who said it, and the quote went, ready, fire, aim, which is, the opposite of the real thing. When we say ready, aim, fire, this is quite different, and it talks about business exactly. Get ready, fire, and then aim. So start your business and then make it better. Then make improvements. Don't look for perfection when starting an online business. Start it and then perfect it. Tip number 5. A big mistake is when we try to start a business or a website, in our case, that caters to everyone and everything. That's not going to work, and it's extremely hard to do, and I would say borderline impossible. When you're starting a business, you have to figure out who your perfect audience is and what is that perfect offer that you will be giving them. You have to figure out your niche, and you have to narrow it down. You can't sell everything to everyone. That's really, really, really hard to do, and you shouldn't even be trying. So without getting obsessed and trying to find a perfect niche and perfect audience, you still have to narrow it down and figure out what is your niche and who is your perfect targeted audience. This is who you will be selling it to. And I know it might sound like you're limiting yourself, but you really aren't. Because it's much easier to sell to a smaller group of people that really wants that product than trying to push that product to everyone and their grandmother. Problem number 6, people trying to monetize right away from the very first day. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be thinking of that. You should definitely think about money. You should definitely think about your monetization strategy, because you are starting a business. You're going to run a business and you need to make money, and you need to realize right away how you're going to make that money eventually. However, once again, I see too many people just being blocked by the thought of making money. Before even writing the very first piece of content for the blog, they're already trying to figure out, should I do affiliate marketing? Should I put Google ads? Should I charge people so I put in their link on my website? Don't worry about that just yet. Get your website rolling first. Start creating good content that people will start seeing and people will like. And then once it's rolling, once you're getting traffic to your website, this is when you start monetizing that traffic. But don't worry about it right away, because if you are monetizing a website that doesn't get any traffic, nobody comes to your website. You could monetize all you want. You aren't going to make any money, and you'll be wasting your time trying to figure out how to monetize it and trying to figure out why nobody's buying. I'll give you the answer. Nobody's buying because nobody's coming to your website. So once again, first of all, start your website, start creating good content, start optimizing your website, and only then start monetizing it. This applies not only to websites, but to podcasts, to YouTube videos, to anything really. Don't get obsessed with monetization right away. Start producing great content first. Monetization will come later. Number 7 is what we like to call the new shiny object syndrome. And I'm guilty of it, and I know hundreds of people probably, if not thousands, that are guilty of that very same syndrome. So the new shiny object syndrome is when you get distracted by a new strategy, by a new business model, by, something that seems really, really good and interesting and profitable, and you leave whatever you're doing and you jump into that. So as an example, you started a blog that talks about cat owners, and you're trying to promote as an affiliate different products that people who own cats would buy, like cat toys and cat food and whatnot. Then all of a sudden you hear about this new seminar in your city that talks about real estate, and the speakers at that seminar are telling you that they made millions of dollars last year and you could do the same and you should be doing that. So you leave your website behind and you start looking into that, and then you figure out that real estate is something you don't really like and it's very competitive and you aren't going to make any money. So you wasted a few months learning that and you kind of abandon your cat website. But all of a sudden, whoa, there's a new offer. You could start a new kind of a website that sells ads and you're going to make millions of dollars. So you jump on that because it seems amazing. The promise is really great and it's a brand new thing, blah, blah, blah. Don't fall for it. Don't go for this new shiny objects. Decide what you're going to do and stick with it. If you want to do affiliate marketing, stick to affiliate marketing. If you want to sell your products on Amazon, get into that and start selling your products on Amazon and concentrate on that. At the very least, concentrate for a year or two until you start making a good income, until you see great results, or until you realize that's not something that's working for you and you aren't happy doing that. Then maybe switch to something else. But stop jumping from one thing to another, to another, to another. I've done that at the very first year when I started online marketing. A lot of these products that I fell for were scams, and I just lost my money and lost my time until I came across the notion of affiliate marketing, and I loved the idea and I started doing that, and I'm still doing that. So stick to one strategy and just keep doing that until you reach the income levels or the success level that you've been looking for. Don't jump from one shiny object to another. Number 8 is a little bit relevant to number 7. I would avoid starting a business in an industry that you hate or even that you dislike and have no interest in. Just like somebody becoming a lawyer or a doctor simply because the paycheck is really good, but they really hate law. And I know there's a lot of lawyers like that. They don't like law. They are not going to put any effort into finding new clients or making clients happy because they overcharge and they make good money and that's what they want. They don't care about law, and some of them even hate it. The same goes for accountants and many other professions. The same applies in business. If you hate that industry or if you don't like the industry you're trying to go into and you're simply going into it because the money seems good, that's a really bad idea because you'll waste your time once again trying to build a business that you dislike. And eventually you will quit because you hate it. The whole point of starting a business online for many of us is because we want to do something we like. We want to do something we enjoy. And we want to invest our time into growing that business that we love, into building that lifestyle that we want. So why would you try to build a life around something you hate or dislike? I think that's really, really important to mention, but you have to go into an industry that you like. Maybe something you have experience with, maybe something you're passionate about. Because when you're working with something that you enjoy, it makes your work so much easier, so much more enjoyable, and the success will come a lot faster because you love what you're doing. Tip number 9, and I've mentioned that in a lot of different blog posts and podcast episodes, is not starting an email list right away. You have to do that, guys. This is crucial. Email marketing is at its top still. It's one of the best channels to build an income. It's one of the best channels to build a following online, and you have to start your email list right away. You can start it for free, although I would suggest an automation tool as MailChimp. And MailChimp, you could start your automation email list for only $10 a month. If you go to the show notes of this episode, I'll even give you a code for MailChimp. This is my affiliate code, but if you load your account with $10, you will get a $30 credit in your account, which is good enough for the next 3 months of building your own email list. Email list is super important because you could reach your audience anytime you want. So let's say you're ranking on Google, you're ranking really well, but Google changes the algorithm and you lose your rankings. Boom, you have no more visitors. Let's say you are building a following on Instagram or Facebook, a fan page, whatever, and one of those platforms decides to shut you down. And that happens all the time because they don't like what you're promoting, or for whatever reason, they shut you down. You lose your audience once again. YouTube. You start a YouTube channel, you make some videos and you add music to them, but the music was copyrighted, you didn't know, you get a strike, your YouTube channel gets shut down, you lose your following. When you build an email list, you control that following and you have access to those followers whenever you want. They are your real followers. So if everything else fails, you still have that email list to rely on. So start building that email list from the very first day, from the very first blog post. It's really, really important. Last but not least, number 10 is getting comfortable. Many of us online entrepreneurs are guilty of that. I have been guilty of that on several occasions. Is when you set up a website or a few websites, the income starts coming in, you're making good money, and then you go on vacation for a week or 2 weeks or a month and you don't do anything. You don't touch your business, but the money is still coming. And this is when you realize, wow, this is actually a passive income or almost passive income where you don't really have to do anything and the money's coming in. Awesome. So you stop working on your business, you put in less and less hours, you put less and less effort, and you just enjoy life, which is great. You're enjoying life. This is another reason to build that business. So you have the time and the possibility to enjoy other activities. However, if you get into that comfort zone and you stop working on your business, chances are, and that's like 99.99% chance, that your business will slowly start going down. It's not going to be visible at first, and you might lose like 10% of your income. That's fine. You don't really get worried about it. So you just let it slide. And the next month, you see that it dropped by 30%. And you start freaking out slowly. But you're like, okay, that's, we're in the month of July or August. People don't really buy stuff in the summer. It's going to come back in autumn. But the next month, your income drops by another 30%. And this is when you're really freaking out and you start trying to figure out what's wrong, and you figure out that you dropped in rankings, you don't have that much traffic coming to your website, people are not buying because your link doesn't work anymore, whatever reason that is. So you start working on your business again. The problem is that it's kind of late. You kind of lost it, and it'll take you 3 months, 5 months, a year, maybe 2 years to get back to where you were at the very beginning, where you got into that comfort zone. So I know that it might be really, really tempting to stop working on your business and spend more time just, goofing around because the money's coming in. But don't fall into that comfort zone trap. Get out of your comfort zone, get back to work, and keep on working. Back to point number 3, be consistent. Keep being consistent. Keep growing your business. Keep working at it. So that's about it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something new and something that will help you move your business forward. As usual, I will be putting up a show notes page at extrapodcast.com/88. This is where I will be putting up some outlines of what I talked about today. I'll be sharing some links and resources that could be helpful to you. And this is where you could also ask me questions in the comment box. So don't hesitate. Let me know what you thought of this episode and let me know if you have any questions. Also, head over to extrapodcast.com/iTunes in order to subscribe to the show. Also, leave a rating and a review, which will help the show tremendously. Thank you so much once again for tuning in, and I'll talk to you next Monday.